Can anybody tell which one is which? So, does this Harbor Freight clone of the Streamlight TLR-1 HL have the Braun to overtake the Streamlight? Hopefully this will help you to answer that. Welcome back. Could you tell the difference in that quick little beam shot there? I don't know, seems pretty tough, but let's take a look at these two and do a little bit of comparing here, because if you're like me, I'm sure you've been wondering about this if you've seen it at your local Harbor Freight or potentially other videos online, whatever. So we'll get rid of the Streamlight for now and look at the packaging here. So as you can see, it's Braun. That's, Harbor Freight's brand. No name of the light really, just tactical rail mount LED light. Okay, 1000 lumens. And, it does have a lot of other specifications and all that, which, they're kind of conjecture or up for debate, as it were. However, you do get all your different rail keys in there, which they call rail mounts, but, whatever. And it does have the Allen wrench in there to change those. It also comes with some extra screw hardware and the wrench for that. So I will show this packaging up close, just so you guys can see all the specifications and whatnot for yourself. Now, I would like to point out that nowhere on this packaging does it tell you what type of batteries to use in this light. However, since it's a clone copy, it'll use the same CR123s that, your regular Streamlight TLR-1 would take. But I thought not having that on the packaging, kind of a miss. Alright, let's get into taking a look at these things, because boy, do they look very similar. I mean, we're talking very close to identical, but they're not exactly identical. So we'll just go ahead and jump on the main differences right off the bat, which looks like, I would say the first thing that really sticks out is going to be your mount here, whereas on this side they look the same. On this side they do not. So to open the mount for the Streamlight, you just push on the screw there and it opens up. No big deal. You can just attach it right on and screw it down. The Harbor Freight doesn't quite do that. The whole thing moves, as you can see there. So you just have to unscrew it, until it's wide enough to fit, but then you have to screw it down so it doesn't retain itself like the Streamlight would do. So that is definitely one big difference there. And showing some of the up-close pictures, you'll see that, yes, the screws back here are a little different, and the rear is made just a little bit different. Same thing with the gasket. It's not quite the same. It's very close, but it is not the same. As far as looking bezel-wise, they look to be the same as far as the depth of the reflector and the type of reflector and all that stuff. Really looks to be the same, but I mean, they are going to be different LEDs, I would imagine. And there is a little bit of a size difference here. We're looking at, on the bezel-wise here, the Streamlight is 1.17 inch and the Harbor Freight is 1.18 inch, so very little difference there, but it could matter depending on the holster, which we can touch on now, actually. The Harbor Freight won't necessarily fit every holster that the Streamlight will fit, and the reason for that is the width across here. So the Harbor Freight is 1.46 from here to here, picture, and the Streamlight is 1.42. So that's actually quite a bit of difference, and what that translates to is this Harbor Freight clone will not fit all the holsters that this Streamlight will fit. So, for example, the Streamlight, it's fit in, some Safariland holsters, but, some of the other types of holsters out there, like, some of the cheaper ones, let's say you see on Amazon, this may not even fit it, which if you were looking at this as a budget alternative to this, that's kind of a miss in my opinion. Now, you know, should they be cloning this directly? No, but technically it's not cloned directly. It is a little different, but I mean, for what it's worth, they're, you know, clone, you know, pretty similar. And then we'll touch on the overall distance, and I'm going from the head of the screw here just to the end of the bezel, so right there, not including the ears of the switch. So you're going to be looking at 3.07 on the Harbor Freight and 3.11 on the Streamlight. And I know these figures seem small, minute, and maybe not even necessary, but when it comes to holster fitment, it sure could matter. And going back to our mount here, and as I said, they do give you the 4 different keys or whatever, so you should be able to attach this Harbor Freight to anything you wanted. But one thing I think that's worthy of note is when you do attach this thing, if you go as finger tight as you can get it, and granted with gloves on I can probably get it a touch tighter than I could without, but I don't know if you can see that, but there is still the slightest amount of movement, whereas with the Streamlight, going as tight as you can go, hand tight, there's no movement at all. Now, under recoil, would this still come off not being tightened down? Perhaps. This one, I would say almost a guarantee it would come off without tightening it down. And, you know, a person should always have their multi-tool or whatever handy, but once you actually tighten this thing down to where it's tight, you know, then there is no play or movement. So, and as far as durability goes with these, I mean, we know that Streamlight is good to go, duty rated, you know, etc., etc. These are well tested, and we can pretty well know what to expect from these. Granted, each individual unit, you know, could be different, but overall, we kind of know what to expect out of the Streamlight. Now, the Harbor Freight, you know, I can't really say because I haven't beat this up. Although, if we, you know, get to, let's say 100 likes on this video, we will beat this thing up and just see if, you know, it can stand up to the Olight, or I mean, I'm sorry, excuse me, that was heresy, the Streamlight reputation. The packaging, however, does say, you know, that it's 5-foot drop rated, so, you know, I mean, is that gonna equate to dropping on concrete and all this other stuff? Don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Let's talk about the beam, which is probably what most people are gonna want to know anyways. So they both claim to be, you know, 1,000 lumens, which, you know, I'm sure not gonna dispute that. Don't have a way to dispute that really, but you know, one thing of note, which, you know, in the beginning, some of the beam shots, you know, which we'll probably be putting some more in right here, but you can kind of tell in the beam shot that one is a little bit cooler, as in a little bit more of the blue tint, and one of them is a little bit warmer, which is a little more of that, you know, amber or orangey kind of tint, whatever you want to call it. Now, guessing which one is which. First one again. Second one. First one. Second one. First one. And the first one is, oh, the Harbor Freight. And the second one is the Streamlight. Not a lot of difference. Could be very difficult, but the Harbor Freight is the one that is a little bit more blue, and the Streamlight is just a little bit more that orange, you know, a little warmer, a little cooler. that's why I say you can tell the difference, but if you didn't know and had them directly to compare side by side, I don't think anybody would know the difference simply from just looking at the beam. But as far as performance, the beam pretty much seems to be on par with the Streamlight. And if the Harbor Freight might just be even a touch more clear, maybe due to that more blue hue it has, or maybe it's just the LED, or you know how it's focused, whatever, but they are very, very close, and it is difficult to tell the difference between the two. And here we are at the final thoughts. So what do I think about this, you know, Harbor Freight clone coming in at or around 50 USD, you know, versus the Streamlight, which, you know, the black Streamlight is cheaper than the tan, but, you know, let's say 150 to not quite 2, but real close, you know, so 3 to 1 basically. Get 3 of these for 1 of these, more or less. Now, I personally would not trust this for, you know, duty or, you know, life-saving type of role. However, I haven't, you know, tested it hard yet either. So that may change, you know, in the future. But as of right now, I would not recommend it for that personally. I would spend the money and get the Streamlight, because then you know what you're getting. You know you're getting quality and durability and fitment and all these things you want, you're getting with this. Now, would this work great on a range toy or an airsoft or, you know, a BB gun, or, you know, even around the house for, you know, the potential home defense, which I wouldn't put it in that role. However, like a critter gun or something like that, sure, you know, absolutely, this would probably be great for that. But is the 50 USD version better than the cheaper version, which you can find on eBay and sometimes Amazon, etc.? I don't know. I don't have one of those, but let me know in the comments if you would like to see a comparison between that one and this one, or this one, whatever. So I think for the $50, I mean, it does what it says it's going to do. And it doesn't make any claims on the packaging that, you know, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread or Streamlight killer, nothing like that. So I'm indecisive at this time. I mean, I think it completely matters on context whether this is a good purchase for you or not. Hopefully, though, during this video I did help to answer some of the questions, you know, that you might have. But if I didn't, feel free to sure drop those in the comments and I'll answer them to the best I can. Or we can do future follow-up videos if, you know, that's what you guys want. So some of you may have noticed we just crossed over 2,000 subscribers, so very cool. Thank you all for that. And the YouTube things really do help, and I appreciate all that. And we will talk to you in the comments. So hope you all have a great Father's Day, and we will see you in the next one.